Roberto now.
Yeah, just a few disjoint remarks and one question. Maybe I'll start with a question. Between now and, say, May, June next year, there will be a number of conferences, scientific events of different sorts. I mean, it may be useful to try and think how some of them may be used, I mean, to provide, I mean, elicit input and get some feedback, which is more easily said than done, I realize. But, you know, if this is or was to be an important cornerstone, I mean, for future activity in the field, probably each major event should have a session, you know, a workshop, a discussion, I mean, 1 hour or whatever, to try and get, I mean, some input. Now, comments, so I'm going to state the obvious. So don't make it too much Brussels-centric. Don't make it, I mean, too much about, I mean, funding from the European Commission. It should be addressed to the community, through to industrial and national public sponsors, to the community, to whoever, not just, I mean, you know, to one building in Brussels, I mean, because that would be, would make it very popular. Discussions about enabled, not enabled, pure LT or whatever, 2 years ago I suggested that the vision, and now we are past the stage of the vision was almost exclusively about things beyond LT and around LT, you know, trends and drivers, etc. And I still believe that whether it's executive summary, the first chapter or something, there must be a short but convincing, I mean, a piece of text which shows basically, I mean, how LT fit within, I mean, these big things, I mean, around us, okay? So folks, I mean, you're not doing it, I mean, because, I mean, of language technology is important, but because, I mean, language technology is part of this huge movement towards, I mean, a new society, I mean, new global village, a new economy, whatever. I think it's important, I mean, to bear that in mind. You have said, I mean, there is no such thing as the typical SRA, indeed. They're all different. And quite frankly, they're all equally awful. I mean, once you read the one to say, well, I mean, why bother? And yet, it's important to say we do have an SRI. It's a process more than a paper. Now, one thing that you may need to consider is basically, I mean, to call upon, I mean, some sort of posh, I mean, English mother tongue, I mean, a kind of journalist or media writer to rewrite the thing, I mean, at the end. So when you're sure about the content and what you say, maybe, I mean, take a look at the form and the style and make it, I mean, it or part of it or the executive summary, maybe, you know, really posh, very, very shiny, okay? For precisely, I mean, you know, all the people, I mean, who are supposed to be mobilized. Two things about impact, and this is just, I mean, thinking aloud. One element which may provide the beginning of an economic justification, I mean, for some of the things I'm going to propose is maybe the hidden cost of non-action. Okay, so if you do nothing, this is going to mean to cost, I mean, a lot of money. It's linked to, okay, I'm not sure it's the same thing, but it's the same type of idea. So basically, I mean, you know, inaction, lack of action is not an option because in any case, I mean, you carry, I mean, a heavy, I mean, now this is, I mean, a mission impossible because there have been many attempts, I mean, over the last 30 years, I mean, but I mean, there may be elements, I mean, ways, I mean, to infer, I mean, you know, just suggest that, I mean, it's without, the problem is there. We're not solving an inexistent problem. The problem is there, and it is pretty expensive, and it's a pain in the neck, and so forth. I mean, so there is some reward in perfecting technologies or coming up with good solutions and so forth. Another element which is about impact, which I think should not be neglected, is basically, well, let's call it, I mean, the EU manufacturing capacity. How would this action directly or indirectly affect, I mean, Europe's industrial, commercial, whatever base? Do we have an ecosystem? Do we have enterprises that will profit? Can we expect this to open up new markets, to create new opportunities for jobs and all the rest of it? Okay. Now, again, it's mission impossible, But by ways maybe of very specific examples, by just looking at one application domain, one vertical, or what have you, I think it would be important, to say this goes ways beyond, a research or technology program. It does, trigger a process of change, and a process of change which has some positive implications on the European base. So there are, as I said, there are opportunities in terms of industries, markets, growth, jobs, and the like. And this is where maybe the business forum, whatever, we can try and elicit some input and establish some degree of correlation between research, technology development, and business prospects, and see whether that can provide an argument. I tend to believe that right now, my DG is very much in love with the cloud computing, right? So I give you the wrong example. I'm not sure that Europe will profit a lot, from cloud computing, other than using it, if you see what I mean. I can't believe that there would be a major player in supplying cloud computing services. Now, you may want and try to say that when it comes to language and language-enabled things, Europe can and is a big player and a supplier, not just, at the receiving end. You see what I mean? None of this is easy, but I'm saying there are some elements which you may try and consider when developing, the plan and the table of content.
Yeah, there we probably need help in one thing. I think we are ready, able, and would spend the time, because it's really necessary, to sit together with people from the business sector and discuss the last thing, the markets and so on, but both for credibility and for competence, we need them. Yeah, we need somebody out that we need. Yeah, so that we cannot do. And I like very much the idea with a conference. So that's also maybe a plea to all of you. We have foreseen a couple of events at conferences. One is with Zygmunt Vetolani in November, yeah, to have a panel there at the conference in November. We already used or abused scientific conferences for vision meetings, yeah, in Tokyo and other places, so that we already did several, and in Berlin. So we will do this now for the SRA too. We cannot, it doesn't fit into every type of conference though, but if you have any other suggestions of conferences, we have planned something for languages, language policies, language programs, digital language programs for next year summer, but this is a little late for many of these things. So next year summer in Mumbai. Yeah, we will be at Koling in Mumbai, and we will have something there together. And so if you have other conferences, please tell us.
It will fit LREC with the strategies for sure.
LREC, yeah. LREC in May, right? In May.
In Istanbul?
In Istanbul, yeah. May, Istanbul, LREC. So if there are any other conferences, regional, national conferences that would fit, let us know. We now have we are in a nice position to have partners in all these countries, so we can act everywhere.
There is a small, it will be probably small workshop at the IGSNLP in Thailand in November. This workshop organized, by the way, by Flanet MetaShare and Language Grid together. This could be also a location, a place where.
Hamburg? In Vienna. Ah, yeah, the German conference in Vienna. Yeah. Yes. Right. I think I'm even scheduled to be there. I think. Yeah.
And interspeech.
Interspeech. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Kirill. Yeah.
If it is a question, there is other two first.
I think I saw your lip moving, and it said RANLP. Yes, was that what you? I saw your lip moving. Yeah, RANLP in September in Bulgaria.
1, 2, 3, 4. First there.
Right. I will give a keynote, and I thought to abuse the keynote for that purpose. Actually, I hope that the organizers won't mind.
I would like to just follow up a little bit about the speaker before the last. speech recognition is one of those things that apparently hasn't really taken off as much as some of the other technologies. But I would like to say that the work that is needed is a little bit the same as we have with machine translation and with corpora building. Just because English, French, German is already taken care of is no reason why we haven't financed corpora building for the Eastern European languages as part of the CSER program, and we're seeing how that is developing. And this is the same thing that is needed for speech recognition. We need to find a way to finance, on the one hand, building the voice corpora for the lesser supported languages, but also the research that is language specific. And some of this, in terms of inflection, in terms of word endings and things like that, is not dissimilar to what one of the speakers this morning said as to how much more successful you can be if you have the right linguistic rules, even if you're doing a graphic research on trying to find things there. And it's the same thing that's needed for speech recognition. None of the private industry is going to invest in this gathering of the information and doing the research for Latvian, for Maltese, or even for the larger Eastern European languages. But this is something where an enormous gain can be gotten. And also, in terms of the other thing that was mentioned, the aging population, the need to provide these people with tools other than the keyboard to interact with the internet and with all of the e-resources. So I think we should not forget that aspect. Just because the technology in general for a particular thing has already been solved doesn't mean that there isn't a very specific role for European Union funding for that enormous amount of work and research that is needed to treat the smaller languages more fairly and more successfully. Thank you.